So in the question 2, first we need to find and draw fx and fx. So since x is uniform from A to B, so which means from A to B, fx have the same probability. So the small fx will be the reciprocal of b minus a from A to B, and otherwise it will be 0. So the figure of small fx will like this. So from A to B, the probability will be the reciprocal of b minus a. So we can from small fx to get big fx. So when x smaller than a, it will be 0, and when x large equals to or larger than b, it will be 1. And from A to B, the formula of fx, the big fx, will be x minus a divided b minus a, and the figure of big fx will be like this. So that's the first question. So the second question, we are given that a equals to -1, b equals to 3, and we need to find a small y and a big Y, and also we need to find EY. So firstly, we calculate small fy first. Since y equals to x squared and x is uniform in from -1 to 3. So when y smaller than 0 and y bigger than 9, the small fy will be 0. Since we could not find value on x, and then we need to have two conditions to discuss. The first one is that when y is from 0 to 1, and at that time x have two roots. The first one is so the first root is the square root of y. The second root is that the square root minus square root of y. So after that, we can calculate in this formula. So small fy equals to small fx divide gx, the derivation of gx1, and we need to get the absolute value of this, and plus the small fx2 divide the derivation of gx2 and get the absolute value of this. Since we get the small fx from the question 1, which is the reciprocal of b minus a, so the small fx1 and the small fx2 both are the reciprocal of b minus a. And since in this condition we have two roots, the first one is square root y, and the second one is square root minus square root 1, negative square root 1. So we need to find the derivative of these two roots. which is 2 times square root y. So after that we plus these two results, and finally we get that the small fy is the reciprocal of 4 times square root y, so which is the first condition. And in the second condition, the y is from 1 to 9, and at that time x will only have one root, which is square root y. So after that we still take this into formula and finally find that when y is from 1 to 9, the small fy equals to the reciprocal of 8 times square root y. So finally, above all the conditions, we can get that the small fy from 0 to 1 is the reciprocal of 4 times square root y, and from 1 to 9 is the reciprocal of 8 times square root y, and otherwise it will be 0. So since we know the small fy, then we can get the big fy. So if y is smaller than 0, it will be 0, and if y is larger or equal to 9, it will be 1. And there also have two conditions. When the y from 0 to 1, it will be 0.5 square root y, and from 1 to 9 it will be reciprocal of 4 times square root y plus 1. And the figure of small y is like this, and the figure of big y is like this. So since then we have calculated the small y and the small fy and the big fy. So finally we need to find ey. So ey is based on small fy. So we need to find the integration of y plus small fy to get the ey. So we need to get this conclusion to this formula, and there are two parts. The first one is the integration from 0 to 1, y plus the reciprocal of square root y, and the second one is the integration from 1 to 9, y plus the reciprocal of square root y. And then we do the integration and finally get the answer, which is